was my intro to, how you look is not, the thing to judge by. And, I didn't like that job. I'd go home and I'd sit in the tub, and the tub would just be filthy. And I was fired, one job after another. I was used to, like, sitting around reading this book called The Story of Philosophy by Will and Ariel Durant. And I'd read about Nietzsche and Schopenhauer and Plato, and way over my head, but I loved it, though. I loved it. They were trying to actually think about, reality. What you get in school is never reality. God. And I looked down the street from where I live today, about a block or so. There's the same school. And the same buzzer, that goes off at trains year after year, to answer the buzzer, and they work at irregular hours at a regular job, and that's what it's all about. Anyway, yeah, I gotta admit, this is a resonant video for me, the Bedlam. I wasn't very disruptive, except for when I quit school. I just suddenly realized, hey, it's my mind. It wants to think for itself. And I remember, like, walking around at night, all alone, and everybody in their houses. And I realized nobody wants to know what you think, what you really think or feel. Nobody. Not mom, not dad, not the girlfriend. Nobody. All they want is, it's just like, I want to get out of this system that somebody or some group of somebody else had invented. I want it out. I remember going to the little library they had. I was on an air base at the time, Canadian Air Force, and I was looking at the books there, and I thought, well, fuck, I'm going to educate myself. And looking, like thinking, well, looking at all the books in the library, and I had K, and there was a writer I knew, I'd heard of, Kerouac. I'd never read anything by him. And then there was another writer I'd heard of just on the next shelf down. That's how small the library was. KLM, Marx, Karl Marx. I had the Communist Manifesto on one shelf, and On the Road with Jack, on the next shelf. And instinctively the hand went to K, and I started reading Kerouac, and that led me to start reading Thomas Wolfe, and started reading Hemingway, and I already was reading T.S. Eliot. I was so blown away by T.S. Eliot in those days. I'd actually memorized poems of his. I thought they were like so deep and meaningful. But I had no friends, actually. It was hard. I made friends later. Like I was saying in one of my videos, it seemed like a few years later, along came a whole other generation who, I could talk to.